We're going to jump right into it. Thank you guys for your patience. Really excited for today's video. We're going to be breaking down the school board meeting that took place yesterday, which was March 22nd, 2022. There is a lot to cover. I feel like there's always a lot to cover. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, but I have a couple of clips, and I'll put you closer to the mic so that you can hear them. But so first things first. Let me start off with something good. Robin was, and I'm sure it's because of elections, but she is on her best behavior. So she is at this point now, like, I mean, she's doing good. She's making sense. She's agreeing now more with the Freedom people and with Jennifer and David, and it sounds good. So I just wanted to say that, like, so it sounds like Robin is, either she's wisening up and figuring out that, okay, maybe I need to change my behaviors, or she's just being on good behavior because she knows that she's up for re-election. So it's one or the other, but either way, she had a good meeting where she made some good points. She called out Rebecca at one point, which was awesome. She called out Jim at one point for something that he had said, which was awesome. So, like, she did good. So I don't want to, I'm very critical, but I also want to give praise where praise is due. And so Robin had a really good meeting. I felt like I would have given her a good grade for this meeting. She contributed. All these board members have to, I'll come back to that. The grandstanding thing, I'll come back to that. Outside of the fact that every time something happens, these guys all have to, including Robin, have to bring it back to themselves. And well, I'm the director of the Boys and Girls Club. We know. You tell us every meeting. We know. Stop. We know. We got it. You're the director, CEO of the Girls and Boys Club. Got it. No more. Don't talk about it anymore. We're done. You don't have to mention it every single time that there's anything that happens and bring it back to that. So just stop. No more. Now, let's talk about this. So a couple of speakers that spoke, the speakers were awesome. Like, if you wanted to watch something and that was it, like, just watch the recognition of the audience. You can skip past the trombone or the bass or whatever, the music if you want to. Go right to the recognition of audience members. It was on fire. Matt gets up. First thing he says is, can we make sure the timer is set? Because last time I only had like a minute to talk. So with the previous meeting, they screwed up the timer and he was only given a minute to, basically like a minute or a minute and a half. And so he stopped. He was like, we're good? Oh, okay. And apparently he got a dirty look from one of the administrators, which is fantastic. That's awesome. So he did great. He also made the point, which is awesome, about sub pay. And he goes, can someone make a motion tonight? Can someone do something? Because he's referring to last meeting and how the math is so complicated for these board members, and that's why they didn't do anything, because math. And I'll come back to that in a second. And it was so, I mean, he had a printout, handout, and he's like, this is how much have you increased it, this percent, like, this is the numbers we're talking about. So do something, board. Do something. That's going to be a recurring theme. This board has a tendency to just do nothing. Great conversation. We just had a great conversation, everyone. Yeah, we'll just keep talking about it. That was Rebecca. We'll come back to that. I bet you if you counted, that would be a great drinking game. Just every time she says the word conversation, you take a shot. You would be hammered like the third time she spoke, because she says it a lot. Now I'm going to go to Alexis spoke. That was absolutely wonderful. I had to pause it at one point. Oh man, it was awesome. So I'm going to let you guys watch that, and you're going to listen to that, and you're going to be blown away. It was pretty fantastic. So, but yeah, so anyway, and if you didn't know, she just announced that Alexis, she's running for Fargo School Board. So if you can go, and she'll probably be watching this, Alexis, you can post your link below, and so that gives people the opportunity to go on your page and like and share. People talk about it. She's one of the good ones, yo. So I'm gonna skip over to her, and you get to watch this absolute freaking takedown. Oh my gosh, this was awesome. So I'm gonna be closer to the speaker so that you can hear. Let's see here. Okay, there she is. Now let's do this.
So Seth, you actually mentioned that you believe teachers and support staff are the district's greatest resource. You had weeks to do simple math. Your 75% increase is not a reason for you to vote down equitable pay, it's an excuse. Nikki, you advocated for adequate compensation to show value for school personnel. Leaning on a non-existent magic checkbook did nothing to move this forward, and personally I don't appreciate your remarks. They were condescending and did nothing to advance the conversation. If you're going to come with action, have options. If you can't support $200. Tracy, you believe that teachers are the greatest resource for the district. You haven't responded to any of my questions or emails on this, and I've sent many. And I'm concerned that you truly don't have the time or commitment to advocate on these issues at this point.
Oh,
I wanted to be clear that everyone should be held accountable when they're taking no actions on values they express so deeply in interviews, endorsements, publications. It's all over the place. You all did video interviews. It's everywhere. You all came to the table as candidates and said, I want to support teachers. I want to support educators. I want to support kids. And you're doing nothing. Simply put, your decision to do nothing was wrong. Your focus on new high school tracks and new rules for board members still don't hold weight to the struggles of everyday educators and what they actually need from you. Ultimately, you either do support better pay for educators or you don't. Thank you.
Oh, snap. Oh, my God. Okay, let me get back to my notes. Oh, gosh, that was awesome. She hit the nail on the head. Nail. Meathead. You either do support it or you don't. There is no other option here. And they go back and forth. And again, I would recommend, too, you can kind of skim around in this, and I can try to give you some timelines if you're curious, but they have the conversation around this later on. I'll come to it. And man, Nikki was uncomfortable. She did not like being spoken to that way, and she got uppity, and it was fantastic. And she said that, well, if we are all pro-teacher and if we aren't supporting something, then there's a good reason. Yeah, the good reason is that you actually can't do anything. You're worthless. Like you don't actually do anything of value for this board. You grandstand, you talk about yourself, everything comes back to you, and then you're like, gosh, that's a great question. Well, Dr. Gandhi, can you fix it for us? Nikki. So yeah, you got blasted. You absolutely got blasted. You guys all deserved it. Every one of you deserved it. You deserve to get blasted for your lack of action and your lack of leadership and your lack of direction. What are you doing? What's the point? And so because of that, I'm going to skip around here, but I mean, it was awesome. There was one other gal that I want to talk about. Victoria got up and she said, I challenge each of you to give up your $1,000 to fix this problem, your $1,000 a month. So the board members each get $1,000 a month for their pay or whatever to be on the board. And she goes, I challenge you, give it up. It's like, there it is. Give it up. Put your money where your mouth is. I want to fix the problem, but we just don't know what to do. Well, there you go. There's step one. Give it up. There's some other stuff. I want to talk about the grandstanding here for a second. I mean, I've got notes and notes and notes. I got 15 pages of notes here from this meeting. So I'm just going to try to skim this. But one thing that was really clear, and so Michaela and I were talking, and she's like, what's the word for what they're doing? So what they do is anytime somebody speaks, the board members will all say, oh, that was so wonderful. Your presentation was just so wonderful. And it reminds me of that one time that I did that one thing that was wonderful. It also wonderful because I'm wonderful and we're wonderful together. And so thank you for doing that and allowing me the opportunity to tell you why I'm wonderful. Grandstanding is the word. It's grandstanding. They are absolutely grandstanding. And so I look up the definition of grandstanding because I was like, what is the word? And so we sat there for a while trying to think about this. Grandstanding, the definition is the action of behaving in a showy or ostentatious manner in an attempt to attract favorable attention from spectators or the media. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. When Jim goes, my future is bright because of folks like you. Blech. And then the next person, Robin, Boys and Girls Club employee. She's one of my superstars, meaning I trained her and everything she learned from me. So yeah, I'm awesome. And then Nikki, I've done food groups through my church because I'm a good church member and I'm awesome too, and food groups. And then Brian, did you go look up the orphan grain train when you were doing your research? And there were some kids that were there that had done like research projects and whatnot. And so Brian, did you stumble upon that? It was in early 90s in North Dakota, orphan grain train. These kids are like, nope. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, it'd be good for your research. It'd be really good. And you find out that I helped. I loaded the grain. I loaded the trains. And I even knew somebody that was from Liberia who benefited. So Yeah, good job, guys. Good job. So, and then Rebecca had to speak. She can't just not speak, but she had to speak. I was teary-eyed. They were happy tears. Yeah, and then Nikki had to speak again. I thank you because I've been in your shoes. Why do you people feel the need to make it always about you? Stop talking about yourself. Like, it's weird. It's so freaking weird. Every time something happens, somebody comes up, you feel the need to be like, well, I was just like you. It's not about you. That's the number one definition of grandstanding. But number two, it's super egotistical and self-centered. Stop making everything about you. It doesn't have to be. You can just say, thanks for the presentation. That was awesome. Good job. Not thanks for the presentation. Awesome. Good job. And I one time did a presentation too. And mine was like yours, but better. And I'm awesome. Thank you. Vote for me. That's what it sounds like, people. Stop. It's like nails it every time. Every time. Oh, guys, it's just so great that you do this. And here's what I did. Stop. Anyway. All right, let me keep scrolling. Dr. Gandhi then, of course, after the last meeting, the board did nothing for substitute teacher pay. Nada, zip, zilch, nothing. Remember, Rebecca said, well, I think the administration's hearing us right now. They're hearing our concerns and they're hearing this conversation. Okay, yeah. Well, apparently Gandhi did actually hear it, and he did listen, and he went back to the drawing board, and he tried to figure out a solution. And so he came up with bumping it from $112 a day to $130 a day for non-certified subs, and up to $150 a day for certified subs. And that's a good step. At least now we're comparable to other places in the state. So, Dr. Gandhi, good job with your team figuring that out. I appreciate that. I know the subs appreciate that. It actually it shows that you care, or at least it looks like you care. So good job. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a good step. I still don't know if it's going to be enough to get people to come over to our dysfunctional district, but we'll see. I'll come back to you in a second, though. And it's actually, you know what? I'll talk about it right now. What's irritating is that the board has this conversation surrounding this and like, well, is this going to be enough? Like, is this going to be good enough? And then Dr. Gandhi has it set, it was going to start April 4th. And then David made the motion. He moved and said, I want this to start effective immediately. We have an excellent team of people that will HR that could figure this out. They'll get it done and we could do it immediately. There's no reason to wait another 2 weeks or a week and a half. Like, just do it now. And of course, there's a big freaking hoopla about that. And then Nikki, like, God bless you, but like, you may have asked, I should create a list. In fact, that's what I should do, is go back on my own videos and just create a list of the dumbest questions that have been asked by the board members. Like, just a list of the dumbest questions. And what she said, this is the dumbest, is this... So by making the motion, David saying, let's just start immediately. We got the staff. We can do it. They take care of, they got 4,000 employees. 30 it's not going to do anything. Like, it's a little extra work, but they can figure it out. And I think it's important enough to do it right now. Nikki asked Dr. Gandhi, is this going to upset the apple cart if we do this now? It's just, I'm not even going to comment. Like, and then Robin, who actually, she says something beneficial here, but she starts off, so as someone who runs a large organization, Boys and Girls Club, I can tell you, and then she goes, I can tell you this is doable. So she did actually say something beneficial. She's like, they could totally do this. There's nothing, but it was at a, toot your own horn there. And then Gandhi, which was bizarre, he's like, I need to go call my people before you vote on this. And it's like, because he wanted to make sure that it's doable. Now, everyone in the room and all of you, it is doable. It's absolutely doable for people who are, like, especially people with accounting. The people have the right degrees. They can easily do this stuff. It's not like this is like, super advanced calculus. This is pretty simple. You change some numbers on your computer and it's easy. It's really not that hard. But, we better shut down the meeting. Let me go call some people to make sure. And at the end of the day, Gandhi, you're going to do it because you were told to do it. You don't get to say, well, let's close the meeting down, because if I come back and this one person randomly that I called said we can't do it, then we can't do it. No, then that person will get fired just like you. So when the board tells you to do something, you have to do it. You don't get to say, well, I'm just not sure that we can do that. Well, no, then you better figure it out. Take some resources and figure it out. So it was just bizarre how he did that. But you guys can go back. There was a back and forth between with Jennifer and Nikki, which was interesting. I thought it was, let me scroll and find it. So Nikki got all upset about the public holding her accountable. And if we don't choose to do something, then there's a good reason for that. And so my immediate thought, I go, so then that meant do nothing? Like nothing was appropriate then? Because you just didn't do something, so then that's okay. Jennifer calls her out on it, and it was awesome. She's like, the public is holding us accountable for doing something right now. Administration did something without being told, so we did nothing. That was her point, and it was a good point. And then she said, we need to have solutions, viable solutions when these problems arise. And Nikki was like, and this is what she said to Jennifer, it's irresponsible to just do something. It's irresponsible of us. Yes. If you have a hole in the boat and you're in the middle of the ocean and you're taking on water, it's irresponsible for us to just patch up the hole in the boat. It's irresponsible. It's not a viable long-term solution, and so it's irresponsible. Okay, so then we just drowned. That's your answer? You just say we drowned. That's it? Oh, good call. Yeah, I mean, again, it's Nikki had just one of those meetings. I bet she wishes she did have her magic checkbook, but nothing. She didn't come up with anything. Nothing. And so anyway, they voted it through, and Jim and Brian voted no. So they didn't think it was appropriate to make this effective immediately. So those two voted no. They're going to come back up. Now then, the FEA, I'm kind of running out of time here. I don't want to continue making this like a 55-minute video. So the FEA showed up, and there was a huge level 3 grievance that they filed. And what the crux of this issue is that counselors who now have taken on, because of COVID, they've taken on a ginormous workload for all of these mental health issues. They don't get prep time, and they don't get lunch. Like some of these people, they're being asked to work over their lunch, and basically, FEA President Kim said there was an email that basically said that, well, if you don't get lunch today, maybe you'll get it tomorrow, or maybe we'll try to get it in sometime next week. So she made the comment. She goes, "I don't know how many of you guys go without lunch." Oh, there was some of them that clearly don't go without lunch. That's all I'll say on that. But Jim, you just need to sometimes just keep your mouth shut. You don't need to pipe in and be sarcastic and snarky, because Kim had some good spots for you. But he's like, why is this a problem now? It's been this way for decades. Kim answers, well, this is the year that first been brought up. It's been brought up this year. And then Jim's like, that's your whole answer to that? And then, so there's another person, I think his name is David, maybe, was with the FEA, and he's like, well, Jim, your point's wrong. It hasn't been this way for 20 years. It's only been this way for 4 years. And really, we've only had COVID for 2, and this is the first opportunity it's come up where these people are getting overworked, underappreciated. They're taking on ginormous workloads. Jim said, well, they are getting their prep time. Tara told us that, the attorney. Tara says they get 5 minutes here and then 10 minutes there, maybe 25 minutes before a meeting. So they're getting their prep time. So that is akin to saying, Jim, that when kids go out on recess, that's the teacher's prep time. You just take that 5 or 10 minutes and that's your prep time. And if you add it all up throughout the day, that's your prep time. And no. The other thing is Gandhi and Tara tried to make this the case that counselors are not teachers. Well, according to state law, they are. So again, the esteemed attorney of the Fargo School Board was wrong. And it's really clear. She must have just graduated, and maybe not, but she's not very experienced when it comes to this stuff. And she's been wrong almost every single time. And she's trying to conflate this. And then she tries to say, well, we're going to require them to work 5 pay periods now, because if they're teachers, then we have to hold them to every part of the contract. That's not true. Absolutely not true. And I bet you these counselors would be like, sweet, sign me up for that. I'll do 5 pay periods. I'll do 5 hour-long sessions, and then I'll just leave. Give me my prep hour. Give me my lunch. I'll do 5 classes. I'm out. And you would absolutely be an idiot to give them that opportunity, Tara and Jim, because the issue with counselors is that you never know what's going to happen. If a kid has a meltdown or if a teacher needs something, like these guys, they have to be prepared. So even if they had 20 minutes, where they can like shut their door. They don't get to shut their door to just have prep time. And then Dr. Gandhi tried to conflate the issue by saying that, well, indirect services is the same thing as prep. No, it's not. No, it's not. An indirect service would be that she has to go, let's say it's a female counselor, she has to go and talk with a teacher about a student. That's an indirect service. That's not prep time. You cannot argue that that's prep time. So you're just trying to say, well, we need to get all those indirect service hours too. It's like that. Anyway, I'm going to kind of blow through this. I got some more stuff to cover, and it just was one of those. The biggest one was that Jim just kept pushing. And it was like, Jim, I use very strong language in my notes here. STFU, if you know what that means. But I wrote down, what did I write down? This is a little bit more inappropriate. Keep your mouth shut, Jim, unless you actually know what you're talking about. Like, go step into the shoes of a counselor for a day, and then come back and tell me that you've got adequate time. Like, just keep your mouth shut. Guys, you say such stupid things sometimes, and it's so irritating that these people are busting their butt to take care of these kids and these teachers and everybody, anyone else, probably even administrators. They're doing their darndest work, and you're telling them that basically it's okay that you don't have enough time to eat? Like, pull your head out. Gosh, you irritate me. Okay, well, let's keep, we're going to skip. Again, it's one of those things that I recommend. Go back and watch it. Just watch the FEA portion. It's about, I don't know, not quite but about halfway in to the meeting. And then Jim, I had to cover this real briefly. He comes in and he goes, no matter what we do, we're going to have problems. Well, he does it's called a red herring fallacy, where he distracts and he tries to intentionally mislead you from the issue by saying, well, if we do this and we do what they ask us, that's going to throw off we're going to have to redo everything. And it's like, no, that's not. And then he goes perfectly from a red herring logical fallacy, which he's trying to distract, straight into a slippery slope, which is basically like, well, if this, then that. If we do this, then we'll have that. Like, no, that's wrong. So logical fallacies are just like that for a reason. They're a fallacy. It's wrong. And you're just trying to distract. So don't. Good point. So here's another one. Let's see here. Right after Jim said that, Nikki asks, well, are there any other school districts that do this? Any other school districts that give prep time? Why would you care what other school districts? We've heard for the last year and a half that it doesn't matter what other school districts do because we can't compare. But now all of a sudden you want to compare? What? Like, go back and just rewatch some of those old meetings, Nikki. We couldn't possibly compare school districts. Now you want to, like, you're a hypocrite. Get out of here. That's crap. So let me scroll. I want to get through this. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, Pledge of Allegiance time. All of a sudden, it sounded like when you're listening to it, everybody's for it all of a sudden. They were against it, now all of a sudden they're for it. I think because they know there's this pesky little election that's coming up. Seth. Let's see here. Let's see, is this? No, that's Jim. I don't want to cover Jim. Seth. All right, we're going to have Seth talk for a little bit. And I'm going to have Seth explain why he doesn't support the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's not because he's a communist. By the way, if you're talking about me, Seth, I've never called you communist, I don't think. I've called you socialist plenty of times, because you are. I've never called you communist to my knowledge. I maybe have said you lean towards communism. You're farther than that. But let's hear what Seth's rationale is for. He doesn't like the idea of doing the national anthem. Or not the Pledge of Allegiance. Here we go.
Will this act cause the board to do better work?
He's like he's going to cry.
I would answer no.
Just listen to him.
I'm extremely happy to be an American.
Here's his justification.
I wouldn't wish to live in any other place in the world.
There's a big but coming.
And one of the main reasons why I love to be an American
Look at her.
is because I get to choose what I say, and I get to choose what I don't say. If I don't want to do this Pledge of Allegiance at every single board meeting, It's not because I don't have allegiance to my country. It's not because I don't love my country. It is because there are words in the Pledge of Allegiance that I don't think are true. I firmly believe that we, as much as we strive, and we all do as Americans,
So random. So random.
Every single person in this country has liberty and justice. But the fact of the matter is that not every single person in this country has liberty and has justice. It's
That was him, by the way, what he's saying right there. That's his CRT leaning, where he's saying it's the critical race theory stuff that he was a firm proponent of. And that's also where he's talking about systemic racism. So just FYI, when you're watching this and you're talking to your people, like that's how crazy of a liberal he is. So just FYI, that's what he's saying. Plus, he's also an atheist. So he's going to get into the under God part because of his religious beliefs or lack thereof.
And for me, who does not want to partake in this, as I said, it's not because I don't love my country, and it's not because I am not a patriotic person. It's not because I haven't had family members sacrifice themselves for this country. It's because I feel that us as citizens should be mentors.
This makes absolutely no sense.
And our mentors are always hard on us because they want us to do better. And unless we can acknowledge the problems that we have, we won't ever be able to fix them.
This makes no sense.
And it's going to be very difficult for me.
So him not saying the Pledge of Allegiance is somehow it's taking a stand and it's fixing systemic racism. Like that's the most
because of that reason to partake in this. And so and I will also say that
here it is.
I have religious beliefs that go, or lack thereof, that go against what is wording
under God.
In the Pledge of Allegiance.
Under God. He can't even say God.
So I would argue that our work might not get better because of the divisiveness that this could create.
The divisiveness.
Because of not every single person wanting to take part in the Pledge of Allegiance. I can already point that just for the fact that I didn't second your motion, I've already been emailed and called a communist several times, which I am not. I am an American. I was born here. I will die here, and I love this place. So I don't think that us doing this is going to make us come together better as a board. Because I don't think for a second that any one of you are going to deem me un-American if I don't stand for
here's the real issue. But
it's going to create a lot of noise that makes it difficult for us as a board to do our work. And I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah. So this is already getting to be a long video, but here's what he's saying. I don't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because of my own personal beliefs. Now, I find it ironic. Didn't last meeting they made didn't he create a motion to change the wording that you can't actually vote your beliefs? You have to vote what's in the best interest of the district? I feel like that was Seth that did that. And so by him voting no, which by the way, he votes no, he doesn't want to do it. Isn't that him voting his beliefs? And correct me if I'm wrong, and I think, Jennifer, this is something, wink, I think this is something to think about. Wouldn't he then therefore be subject to his own discipline that he created? It's an interesting question. Anyway, he goes and rambles, and the real issue, he's an atheist, he's a socialist, and he believes in critical race theory. And so because of that, he cannot support the Pledge of Allegiance. And he can make this all day long about how American and patriotic he is. At the end of the day, he's not. He's not at all. He's not. And so, Seth, I'm sorry to say this, but like you choosing to sit this out, That is your choice. You made that decision. But then you have to reap what you sow. This is very similar to if somebody pleads the fifth on the stand, which, by the way, Fifth Amendment, you have the right, if you're on trial, to not say anything. The problem with that is then the assumption is you're guilty. So you might not be, but the assumption is you're guilty. And so he's trying to say, well, if I sit this out because of my beliefs, everybody's going to think I'm a communist. Well, maybe you should think that one through. So at the end of the day, it's consequences. You have actions and you have consequences. And I tell people this all the time. If I jumped off my building, breaking my legs on the ground isn't a punishment, Seth. You're not being punished. That's a consequence. The ground wasn't punishing me. It was a consequence of me being an idiot and jumping off the building. So you deciding to set out the Pledge of Allegiance, the consequence in a very conservative state is that you're going to get blasted, and you should. 100% you should. So last thing last, there was a bunch. So you should check it out. Jennifer absolutely torched him over this, and he got upset, but she torched him. Like, the reason you're able to take that position is because of the freedoms that weren't free, that it cost, and that's why we do stuff like this. Is that we are putting our allegiance, and so anyway, that was awesome that she did that. Let me see. Last thing. Divisiveness too. That was just so stupid. Like, oh, this is gonna be divisive. No, it's only divisive if you make it that way. Last thing. Oh gosh. So they're just getting ready, and you can see when I flip this, you'll see. In fact, so you can see Robin has her hand up. So she's getting ready, and right before this, Jim had said somebody needs to call the question, move previous question, stop the debate, let's move on. So she puts her hand up, and Rebecca chooses not to acknowledge her. Instead, Rebecca decides to talk about, I don't know what so this is about the pledge still, Pledge of Allegiance, and they're just wrapping this thing up. So let's hear her real quick. I'm just going to cover this. This is just great.
I attended the Communications Engagement and Advocacy Committee meeting. At that meeting, part of the discussion, and I know we're going to learn more about it at a meeting down the road, but part of that discussion was around land acknowledgement statements. Land acknowledgement statements are tied to help us address that the land was occupied by Native Americans before we were here. And I'm looking forward to learning more about the work that the district, that administration is going to be doing to explore the possibility of developing a statement like that. A statement that has been developed at NDSU, other organizations.
President Knudsen, can I call a point of order?
Yes,
because this is not germane to the motion.
I'm telling.
It's called out by Robin.
The reason that I'm going to be supporting the motion. It is also tied into knowing that this.
I can't. I just can't. She freaking just rambles for just. Just freaking rambles. It just starts rambling. And you know it's bad when Robin cuts you off and is like, what are you talking about? Well, we should acknowledge the land, too. I'm out. That was just too much. That was the perfect way to end this meeting on, like, what? Oh, gosh. That was awesome. Anyway, I'm out.